good science always pretty much, you know, it kind of validates what God has said about the way the universe works. And this is one of them for certain. And that is the idea of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Well, what is that? Well, in and X means exit. You go out of, you leave a building and go to the outside, right? Internal is inside. So when we're talking about motivation, and which is really gets at the why am I doing something? You know, why do I why do I why do I go why do I want to lose 20 pounds? Why do I want to get a degree? Why do I want to go to that party? Why do I want to attend that church? Why do I want to? 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 And basically, where is the motivation for that coming from? Is it coming from inside of me or is it coming from outside? Now, the answer to that question is going to have a heck of a lot to do with how fulfilled you are in the doing of it, what lasting value, whatever it is you're doing, will have to you, how other people experience you and the doing of it, whether or not it will be sustainable, and whether or not it's really just a waste of time. It doesn't matter what we're talking about, because it could be true with the same thing for two different kinds of people. Now, one of the things we know about the science of this, I wrote a book called The Law of Happiness. The Law of Happiness was a book that that I wrote when a number of years ago. The president of the American Psychological Association, a guy named Martin Seligman out of Penn, he challenged the field to go research happiness and thriving. He said, look, guys, for 100 years, we've been studying what makes people miserable and how to get over it. Depression, anxiety, addictions, trauma. For over 100 years, the field is like well over 100 years. The field of psychology has been studying that. And he said, we've gotten really good at it. And that's true. And we know how to treat stuff, right? If you're depressed, we can help that. If you're anxious, we can help that. If you're addicted, we can help that. He said, but that's all the negative side of life. Why don't we go look at the positive side of life and find out people that are really thriving and they're happy? Why? What makes them that way? What do they do that's different than the unhappy people? Well, the field just responded like crazy. Gazillions, and I mean gazillions of research projects launched all around the world. And now, all these years later, this has been probably, I don't know. I'd have to go look it up. I'm going to guess maybe this is 15 plus years ago when he did this, maybe 20. Now there's graduate programs in what's called positive psychology, or psychology that studies the upside of life. Well, one of the things that they found that's one of the big factors of people who are happy and thriving, and I wrote about this in The Law of Happiness. That's the book. You can read about all this, or you can become a Boundaries.me subscriber. And we have a whole course on this, an entire course on happiness and all the different factors. Well, one of those factors that loads into this is they found that people that have goals are happier than people who don't. Imagine that. Really imagine that, because some people don't think about goals. Oh, that's for those driven type A's. I'm not into climbing the success ladder and all that. Well, it's really not about that. It's about knowing where you're going on purpose and defining how you know you're going to get there, or how you know you are there when you get there, and then figuring out some steps to get there. Well, that doesn't seem too weird. We ought to all be doing that. Like when I put my head on the pillow tonight, don't I want to put my head on the pillow and go, God, what a great day. What a great day. I accomplished this and that, and I had this experience and that experience, and love grew in this way or whatever. But if I don't have some sort of plan to get there, then good luck, right? So, in this particular dynamic of finding happiness, it's about having a goal or goals in life or goals for the day or the week or the month or the year. But here's the deal: goals themselves are not enough and will not make you happy. How many times have we heard somebody say they worked their whole life to climb the ladder of success? They got to the top of the ladder and then they found out the damn ladder's leaning up against the wrong building. They made it. They're successful. They got to the top. But what they invested themselves in didn't make them happy. That's the problem of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, oftentimes. Okay, so what is intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation when it comes to these goals? Well, it comes to the question of, if you got a goal, why are you doing it? Is the motivation coming out from outside of yourself? Because mom and dad want you to go get that degree or be in that certain profession. Even if you're 45 years old, you're still listening to those voices. Or some friends or the church or the culture around you. That there's pressure to be this. And extrinsic motivation generally falls down into two categories. And that is, we're extrinsically, externally motivated. I'm going to do this to get a reward, an external reward, like a paycheck, for example, or like somebody's approval, or somebody liked me, or this, that, and the other. That's external. Or I'm going to do it to avoid an external punishment. Like, if I don't do this, somebody's not going to like me. They're going to punish me by the silent treatment or rejection or anger. Or I'm not going to get the paycheck, or I'm not going to get the trophy, or I'm not going to get the recognition, or I'm not going to get whatever it is outside of myself. Well, is there anything wrong with a paycheck? No, it's fantastic. It drives us to work. If it's an internal motivation for a paycheck, right? Like, why do I want to go get the paycheck? Because I want to be able to buy stuff that fuels my soul. Right? I want to be able to put my kids through school. I want to be able to put a roof over our heads. I want to be able to, every now and then, like, go out to dinner or go on a vacation or invest in some gardening equipment. That's really funny for me to say. I could barely get that out of now. Let me try again. Invest in a new set of golf clubs. Now that'll motivate me to go get the paycheck, not the gardening thing. But everybody's got their deal, right? But it matters to your soul. Proverbs says that a desire accomplished is sweet to the soul. It becomes a tree of life, and it gives off fruit to us. Gives off fruit to us. I hadn't been able to play in a couple of years because of my surgeries, but when I started playing golf again, I bought a set of irons, and they're not the newest, fanciest, coolest ones out there, but oh my gosh, do I love those irons. I just love them. And I look at them, the optics and the way they set up, and I can see the target. It feels like when I was a kid and had those forged blades. And, you have possessions like that your soul loves. All right, that's intrinsic. It feeds my soul. But what if I went out to the golf course and saw, well, all the cool players have this kind of golf club? Well, then I feel the pressure. I got to get that so I can be in the cool group. That's extrinsic, and it never will satisfy you. Whether it's parental approval, friends' approval, cultural approval, whatever that is, to do something for external reasons will leave you empty, is the best way to look at it. Do I want to lose weight so I can look cool? Or do I want to lose weight because I want to feel better? By the way, for those of you who are chronicling myopathy, or, I've been unable to walk for 2 years and so very stagnant and have a great weight gain plan that I can share with you. Just don't do anything for 2 years and keep eating and you'll get like me. But now that I'm through my second surgery and I'm moving in today, I officially, what is it? I have lost 15 pounds. So thank you very much. No, I don't think I'm extrinsically, I do want you to, stroke me a little bit for this. But the reason I want to do it was I wanted to do it for me. But why are you doing it? Why are you doing some of the stuff you're doing? It's not going to fulfill you if you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Jesus tells a story about giving and how giving is good for our soul. By the way, it's another one of the factors that comes up in the happy people. Happy people are givers. Some people didn't give for internal reasons because it fulfills them to give to good causes or other people, alleviate suffering in the world or provide opportunity for people. Some people give it for the external recognition. You know what Jesus said about that? He said, when they give it, and everybody gives them the external recognition and go, oh, we're going to put a plaque up in your name or whatever. He said, enjoy that plaque or enjoy that trophy or enjoy that applause because you have just received your reward in full. So, but the real intrinsic giver is somebody that gives because they're giving for real reasons, that it enhances your soul. And he said, don't even let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. That's how internal it is. So that even your external hands don't know that you're doing it. Isn't it cool when you get anonymous donors? You look at something, an anonymous donor. I do a lot of major donor events for a lot of really cool charities and speak at those, and they'll have all these people that are donating lots and lots of money to really, really good causes. And most of those events, you'll see them, the organizers step up and say, we have an anonymous donor who is given a gift of however much amount and will match anybody else that gives. And it motivates other people to give, but they don't even care about their name being associated with it. Intrinsic versus extrinsic. If you've ever known somebody that seeks people's approval all the time and wants to tell everybody, you see this in businesses sometimes. They always want to make sure everybody knows that was their idea or they get credit for it. And in all the leadership books will tell you in the great companies, nobody cares who gets the credit. We just want to win. But they just want the external, Have you ever noticed that after they get it, they really haven't changed any? Or after somebody makes a lot of money because they thought that would make them happy, that now they're just like the same jerk and with a lot of money, or the same self-centered person and they have a lot of money, whatever it is. Anyway, intrinsic versus extrinsic. So here's the payoff. The payoff is if you find what you want internally that makes you happy and you pursue that, the promise of the scriptures and the findings of science are the same. proverb says that a real desire accomplished is sweet to the soul. It becomes a tree of life. And what does a tree of life do? A tree gives off fruit. So it lives in your soul forever to give off fruit. And I'll close with one quick story. It's a great example of this. I was speaking one night at a university, and afterwards, this guy walks up to me, a kid walks up to me, a student, and he says, "Oh, I really enjoyed your talk." And I said, "Great. Tell me why." And he said, "Well, I want to do what you do." And I said, "Oh, what is that?" And he said, "Well, I'm actually pre-med. I want to become a psychiatrist, and I want to, I want to write books and do media and have a practice and all that kind of stuff." And I said, "Well, that's great. Tell me more about that." And he said, "Well, my grandfather was a well-known physician and he names the city, and then my father followed in his footsteps, and it's been a family tradition, of respected physicians in our city, and he's talking about all the, and it just, I kind of wanted to throw up, like, about all this respect and status that he thought this profession was going to bring to him, and inside I'm thinking, well, if you do become a doctor, I hope nobody I care about goes to see you, because it just seems so all about him, and all about his pursuits and who he wanted to be and all of this. And anyway, so I ended the conversation and he moved on. And then about 10 minutes later, another kid walks up to me and says, "Oh, I really enjoyed that." And I said, "Well, tell me why." He said, "Well, I want to do what you do." I go, "Here we go again." I said, tell me what that," he said, he said psychiatrist too. He said, I'm pre-med and I want to become a psychiatrist. And, have a ministry, working with people and helping them understand, the spiritual aspects of psychology and all of that. And I said, "Well, tell me how you decided to do that." And he said, "Well, it's really interesting." He said, I grew up in the church, and I always was volunteering, doing stuff." He said, "But I really loved working with kids. I just loved," he said, "I'd, be a counselor at youth camps, and it's so much fun." You can see his eyes lighting up when he's talking about this. And I just loved it. And it brought me so much joy. And so I always thought, well, I'm going to go into the ministry so I can be a youth pastor. And then he said, I got in like the 10th grade. And he said, and I took biology and I loved science. Like, all I could do is like study biology, and I'd read books on it. And I'd go to the lab. And then I was in this dilemma, like, well, I thought I wanted to be in the ministry, but then I loved science and pursuing scientific things. And then it hit me, well, I could become a doctor and I get to pursue my science, and I could also help people. But if I became a psychiatrist, then I could work more on the life issues with them, which is really ministry anyway. So to me, becoming a psychiatrist would be like everything I always wanted. And his eyes are like this big, and I'm like, I got tears streaming out. "Oh, let me write you checks to send you to medical school. I'll pay for the whole thing. You're the real deal." And I wanted this kid to go soar. Same story, different motivations. Different motivations. One of them is external, one of them is internal. So just look at your life, look at your calendar. Why am I doing this? 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 Now, why am I doing this? Now, I want you to listen to those questions, because there's a lot of different meanings in those. Why am I doing this? Like, I didn't even like, I'm lost. Or, why am I doing this? Kind of curious, trying to find yourself. Or, why am I doing this? Meaning you already kind of know what matters to you, but this particular choice of this day or that week or that month, and getting all of those are important.